Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum everyone and welcome back to Notes from Nur Hidayah. Welcome to the podcast. I really hope that all of you have been keeping well and staying safe insyaAllah. So today, or at least for this whole month, is going to be very exciting because the podcast is going to take on a different approach. We are incorporating a very, very beneficial game that has been founded and created, alhamdulillah, by three of our guests here today who is already on the podcast. And more importantly, we want to also see the things that we can benefit from the game itself, which is called the Best Generation. And we will be incorporating it in different segments of our episode today, insyaAllah. So, alhamdulillah, together with me is three remarkable individuals. Alhamdulillah, bismillah, mashallah. So we have Sister Iris, we have Sister Eunice, as well as Abbas. But I will allow them to introduce themselves lah. So who would like to start first?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So my name is Abbas. So maybe like one of the reasons why we actually created the game was that so it's me, my wife, and Sis Iris, one of our friends. So we both of us we love board games. So we love playing board games. We have like 50 over plus board games.
MashaAllah, a collection lah.
Collection,
MashaAllah.
right? So we realized that there isn't something out there in the market or for an Islamic board game that is actually fun. So we kind of set out with the mission or the objective of creating a game that is fun, because we realized that there are some board games out there, or like some Islamic games that tends to be very like trivia based only. So we wanted something that was like competitive, something that was engaging, correct? So because the more engaging it is, like the more people want to play. So yeah, it was a very fun and exciting part getting here. But yeah, they can share the rest also.
Can share the rest.
So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Eunice Safiyyah. I've been a convert for 8 years, alhamdulillah. Yeah, I'm a freelance video editor.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Khadijah. I was born Iris and I converted for, I can't remember, I think like about a decade already. Alhamdulillah. I'm a product designer and art director by day.
MashaAllah, yes. So this is the creative brain behind what you are seeing here. So it's a game called The Best Generation. I have personally played it. So inshallah we will explore a little bit more on the games as we go along. So inshallah today we are going to explore more about the Quran reciters lah. So this is actually one of the categories that is in the Best Generation, and it's really interesting because a lot of times when we learn about the sahabahs, we will always look at much more popular themes like those who are promised Jannah, those who are the caliphs. But here specifically, those who recite the Quran, those who contributed to what the Quran is today. Inshallah, we will hear more from the founders and the creators of Tarbiyah Games and the Best Generation. Inshallah. Okay. So probably as a start, would you like to begin with sharing with us the appointed Sahaba, and then why did you choose him, and probably sharing about his story?
Okay, so I chose Ubai ibn Ka'ab. I think that I came across him when I was doing the research about the Quran reciters, because he was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Ubai was the best in the recitation of the Quran. There were the other two that were known for the fiqh of the Quran and the inheritance law of the Quran. But since this is about the Quran reciters, and he was said by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to have the best recitation, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually loved to listen to his recitation, and I think that says a lot, because the recitation of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would already have been like amazing, right? Like listening to his recitation, and the fact that he loved to listen to Ubai's recitation. I think that really says a lot about how he recited the Quran. And he was also the first scribe of Rasulullah in Medina. So yeah, I think that he's very he's a very prominent sahabah in the Quran reciters category. Yeah, so He was also one of those who could read and write before Islam, which was not really common, yeah, back then. Yeah, and I think that um no, I think that he was always seen in the masjid of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to be with the Quran. Like he would be reciting the Quran, or he would be doing prayers, or he would be answering people's questions about the Quran. And like he's like all the narrations about him is all in the masjid and about the Quran. And I think like that is what like a person of the Quran like is like subhanallah, like your whole life is the Quran, eh? Like yeah, that is something really, really amazing. Like yeah.
MashaAllah. So usually when we take a look at somebody, we have certain things that we will attribute them to. But at least for Ubay bin Ka'ab, it's the Quran, it's the masjid, and his closeness with the scriptures, right, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mashallah. To affirm all that we should have shared, there's a hadith from Sahih al-Bukhari where Anas bin Malik reported that the Prophet said to Ubay bin Ka'ab, Allah has ordered me to recite the Quran to you. Ubay said, did Allah mention me by my name to you? And the Prophet said, yes. And Ubay said, have I been mentioned by the Lord of the worlds? Then the Prophet said, yes. Then Ubai burst into tears. MashaAllah. Really, really beautiful for the experience of Ubai ibn Ka'ab. Anything else that you'd like to share about his journey?
I was also when I heard the story about that he was being like Rasulullah was commanded to recite the Quran to him, right? Well, I was thinking like how it would have felt, because like it is such an honor, like, to be mentioned by Allah. Yeah. And like what that would have like done to his iman. Yeah, and his increased his love for the Quran even more.
And that is a testimony of Allah's love, right? The more that He loves you, the more He will give you that love to bask in His love as well. MashaAllah. Probably, is there anything that you can share with us in terms of the application in the daily life, and especially probably one part of Ubay bin Ka'ab's life where he became a loss for the Muslim community?
He was known to khatam the Quran, like finish the Quran every 8 years. And this was considered taking his time to complete the Quran. Yeah, like yeah. So like we were saying that like he would read it like in his salat, and like he would reflect, and that is why it took him 8 days to finish the Quran. Yeah, and I mean for us we take sometimes we don't even finish the Quran. Yeah. And like we tend to focus on certain parts, like maybe finishing the Quran is one of our goals, or maybe reflecting on it is one of our goals, or learning the tafsir of it is one of our goals. Yeah, but I think that the lesson from here is to take our time to really internalize the Quran in the different aspects of the many aspects that the Quran can offer in your life. Yeah, and when Ubay ibn Ka'ab passed away, everyone in the street turned up, and it was so like there were so many people that it was spilling out, and like everyone wanted to be there for his janazah. And like it's really an ummah's loss when someone who is precious to society is returned back to Allah, right? And that made me think Ustazah Hidayah mentioned that like we attribute certain like this person is known to recite the Quran, or this person is known to be generous or courageous. So like when you are returned to Allah, like what will we be known for? Yeah. And what do you want to be known for? Yeah.
Something for us to think about and ponder upon. And probably adding on to that would be, what do we want to bring to Allah? What do we want to present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? For what we are known of. Sometimes as we live in this life, or particularly in this era, there are certain things that we would like to be associated with or associated to, right? But will that association be one that is worthy when we bring it back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That's something for us to think about, right? So thank you so much for sharing beautifully about Ubay ibn Ka'ab. Of course, there's so many other things that we can learn from him, but I hope that, since he is under the category of the Quran reciters, it's one that we can reflect on in that area lah, or in that scope, insyaAllah. So we shall move on to the next sharing of another sahabah. Would you like to go next,
Bismillah.
Sister Iris, insyaAllah? So which sahabah do you have chosen
Okay.
for your sharing?
I have chosen Abdullah ibn Mas'ud.
MashaAllah,
Yeah.
a name of a Sahaba that we will always hear about,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But what about him that has made you to have chosen his story to share?
Okay, I think like one of the reasons that I chose him was because when during this game that time, I was reading that okay, he recited Surah Rahman, the first one to recite the Quran publicly in front of the Kaaba, and he chose to recite Surah Rahman, and it is one of like my favorite surah of the Quran. I mean, all of them are beautiful, but the one that I always like go to for strength and for like reminders is Surah Rahman.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, so then it piqued my interest. Like, okay, this is a category about Quran reciters. So therefore, like it seemed befitting that someone who gave up, like who suffered so much just because he wanted to recite Al Quran publicly in front of the Kaaba. Like so much was being done to him, so much violence that he faced, just so that today, alhamdulillah, by Allah's will and generosity, that we are able to learn Al Quran and we are able to like recite Al Quran without fear, without any threat to our lives, alhamdulillah. And it is a huge gift that was being given to us that, and we have to reflect and think back about what happened in the past that brought us such all by the mercy of Allah, but what happened in the past that led us to such comforts today.
Is there a specific story about his life journey that you'd like to share for us to reflect on, inshallah?
Okay, there's so many stories here. Okay, so
If you can pick like the highlight.
the
one
highlight
of
on
the
it.
many,
Okay.
because definitely we have heard a lot of him, especially when it comes to prophetic narrations. Here I have what has been narrated by Abdullah bin Mas'ud, where the Prophet said, make use of the two remedies, honey and the Quran. So, even the simple reminders was narrated by Abdullah bin Mas'ud, but I'm sure that there are many other of his great stories that we can learn from.
Okay, I think we all know that Islam started, like da'wah to Islam started with the slaves. And Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was not of like the nobility, not of the noble tribes. He was not someone who, had wealth, anything. And then on top of that, like he had some physical traits that were being looked down on, especially by the Quraysh. And it was so upsetting when I was going through his story because the people of Quraysh were really nasty to him because of the way that he looked, things that he could not control, and what his lineage was, whatever nobility, things that they thought was very important. And even when they wanted to consult with Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and talk and have meetings and what, they would say like, if we are going to talk, I don't want to have this man over here because it's not worthy for me to sleep in front of this. It's so upsetting when I was reading through such things like these are things that he could not control. He was a small stature and it was not considered like something that was good during that time, right? After that, you go through his story, you realize that even though he didn't enjoy a high status in society or the things that people glorified in that society, he did not let his physical traits impact what he could do.
MashaAllah.
He was a Sahaba, in a wonderful Sahaba, a great Sahaba that can learn from in his own right. Those things didn't matter to him at all. And he was despised for all the things that society glorified. But Allah gave him the ni'mah of Iman, made him so brave to stand in front of the Kaaba and recite Al Quran to get beaten and say, I don't care. I will go back tomorrow and do it again. Imagine that kind of like fire and passion inside your heart, and this was a youth, and the Sahaba was like, okay, no, it's okay, relax, you don't have to do it again tomorrow, it's fine. And then Allah gave him other things, like, even though he didn't have like things like what Abu Jahl had, but he was given things like closeness to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He didn't want to pick up the sandals of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He was the one who knew all the secrets of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, like things that were very intimate between them. He was given, I think, like when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam needed privacy to do like a ghusl, he was the one who covered up the area, and that was the kind of closeness that Allah has given to him. Yeah, and at the end of the day, like it really highlights how like Allah does not look at your appearance for wealth, but rather He looks at your heart and actions.
MashaAllah.
Yeah.
The person who people despise his
Yes.
presence is the one that is loved by Rasulullah SAW of his
Yeah.
presence, right?
And
MashaAllah.
also, like, one more thing I wanted to add is that this particular incident, there was an incident where there was like that happened that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, his legs were exposed and the Sahaba saw, because he's a man of small stature. So this Sahabas are humans also, right? So they sort of like laughed at his legs. And then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saw that there's a hurt that flashed across his face, across the face of Ibn Masud. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he admonished the Sahaba, and this is because there is a certain degree, a certain level that you expect of the Sahaba, you know, and it's expected. You are Sahaba, you should be behaving better. And it's understandable, and we should learn from that as well. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said something very beautiful about Ibn Mas'ud, is that I swear by Allah that his legs, they are heavier on the scales on the day of judgment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than Jabal Uhud.
MashaAllah.
So I thought like it's really cementing the fact that Allah does not care what you look like, does not care how much you have in your bank account, does not care which corporate station you are inside the office. He really looks at what your deeds are. And I think that is a very, very important lesson. I feel like a lot of times today, we look at all those things, I myself included. Sometimes I think to myself like, wow, like look at this person, you know, like so beautiful. Look at this person, like so mashallah, like has all this like wealth, has all these things. And then at the end of the day, I think those things are nice to have, nice to enjoy, but it's not like gonna grant you anything except for that momentary happiness. Yeah. And I think what drives the soul, and a reminder for myself also, that what drives the soul is to constantly seek things of the hereafter, even though they are small and gradual, that inshallah it'll amount to something that is great.
Really beautiful. So small and gradual, it becomes something that is sustainable, right? For the long run. Also those are deeds which are most loved, right, by Allah. Those which are done consistently, even if they are small, inshallah. Thank you so much for sharing a lot about Abdullah bin Mas'ud. And I'm sure when we read a lot of the prophetic narrations, a lot of the hadith, we will see a lot of his memes. And that can also tell us about the love that Rasulullah SAW had, because to be able to narrate from Rasulullah, you need to be around Rasulullah SAW and to hear him, to witness his daily actions, and for us to be able to be narrators of Rasulullah SAW. So thank you so much for sharing his beautiful, beautiful story. We'll move on to the last appointed Sahaba for this category for the Quran reciters. So for Abbas, which Sahaba have you chosen for yourself?
So the sahabah I've chosen is his name is Salim. So he's actually called Salim Mawla Abu Hudhayfa. So a lot of people might have heard of Abu Hudhayfa, which is the secret keeper of Rasulullah SAW. So Salim is actually the freed slave of Abu Hudhayfa that came to be regarded as his adopted son. For him, he actually migrated both to Abyssinia and then to Medina. So he's one of the Sahabas that did both migrations. And one of his like amazing thing was that he was actually the Imam at Masjid al-Quba before Rasulullah SAW actually arrived to Medina. So during that time, actually, there were so many other kind of like senior Sahabas who were there, like Umar bin al-Khattab was also there during Medina, but he was actually chosen to be one of the people to actually lead the Ummah. So I think that was really amazing. And one he actually was actually martyred in the Battle of Yamama. When Umar radiallahu anhu, they used to talk about like all the Sahabas, and as he was passing away, Umar radiallahu anhu, he actually said if Salim was alive, I would have actually appointed him as the Khalifa, right? So this Sahaba, again, why I chose him was that because I haven't really heard a lot about him before, and I think that was actually quite amazing. One of the stories of like, since because he's a Quran reciter, right? One of the stories that kind of like stick with me was that during battles he would always call like Quran reciters, like all people of the Quran, like go forth, right? Be brave. And he always tells himself, oh, if I'm a holder of the Quran, right? And then why am I like this? Why am I not out at the front? Right? So it's sometimes unfortunately, like, reading the Quran certain times tends to be very um kind of like routine, right? Maybe if you have a routine of like, oh, every Friday or every Thursday night it's okay, kafi, right? So okay, you read Surah Kafi. And sometimes um it becomes a routine that it's just like monotonous again. But like for these sahabas, like the Quran became them, right? And there's like the very famous narration about when someone asked Aisha radhiyallahu anha, what was the characteristic of the Prophet sallam, and uh, she replied, the characteristic of the Prophet sallam is the Quran, right? So like the Quran is supposed to change us, right? And it definitely changed Salim, and I think that was one of the amazing thing. Another thing, if I can share, yeah, is one of the things that kind of struck me was actually how close he and Abu Hudhayfa was, right? And it was really about like it was companionship, right? It was really like what friends are. Because he was generally he was like a freed slave, right? So he didn't have like really any family. So during battle, like after battle, usually people would account for like their tribe. Like, they'll go to their tribe and say, okay, everyone's accounted for. So Abu Zaifa will always account for Salim, and Salim will always account for Abu Zaifa, right? Like after every battle, so like, they were making sure that they were together. So during the battle of Yamama, like when he was actually um about to pass away, right? Uh, the only thing he asked was like, where is Abu Hudhayfa, right? Where is he, right? Like put me, he said to the companions, put me beside him, right? And then the companion said that he's already beside him. So like even during battle, right, they were together, right? And they actually passed away. They were martyred together at the Battle of Hamama. So like, I feel like it's a kind of like friendship that I want to have, right? And Abu Zaifa, he's known as the secret keeper of Rasulullah Sallam, right? So Sallam gave him all the name known of all the of all the hypocrites, right? So he's saying that Abu Zaifa is the furthest away from hypocrisy, right? And then to have a friend like that, right? So uh, I think that's like a reminder for myself, like, to find good friends, to find people that you um that will help you in your deed. And I think that's very amazing.
MashaAllah. So you're highlighting the importance of companionship, and we're just seeing that from the experience of just these two companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and what more when we learn more about the other companions of Rasulullah to see that wholesome relationship, and then how everyone has something to contribute lah, right, to Islam, to Rasulullah, and even to the relationships that we have with the people around us. Alhamdulillah. So hopefully, inshallah, there are so many other Quran reciters that has been highlighted. Inshallah, you can learn more about them through the best generation. And speaking about the best generation, we are also going to move on to the next segment where we will be addressing some questions. And this is actually coming from the question deck. Lah. Again, not scripted. We are gonna just try a random card, answer some questions, inshallah. And of course, we learn as we try to figure out the answers for this. Lah. Okay, so for this round, who would like to volunteer themselves as tribute? Who would like to go first, inshallah?
Okay, I'll go.
Okay, you'll go first. Okay, Ken. So, Bismillah. You'll be okay. You'll be fine, inshallah, inshallah. Okay, so it feels like a school exam. Okay, okay. All right. So, who is the first companion to be buried in Al-Baqi'? One of these three. Okay. The first option is Khadijah bint Khuwailid. Second one is As'ad ibn Zurara. And the third one is Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib. MashaAllah. Yes, As'ad ibn Zurara. So he is the first companion to be buried in Al-Baqi. And if you go for Hajj, you go for Umrah, then that will definitely be one of the places where you will be exploring lah, and visiting this place called Baqi in Medina, right? In Medina. Right. So Alhamdulillah. Another point for you. So that's 2 points, inshallah. All right. So who would go after you? Okay. Okay, so Abbas go last lah. Okay, we give him chance lah. Okay. All right, Bismillah. Okay, who owns the well of Ru'ma? So we have options: Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Uthman ibn Affan, or Umar ibn al-Khattab.
I forgot whether it's Uthman or Umar and
Yes, one of the
yeah,
youths. One of the youths.
yeah, one of the youths.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Umar.
You gonna say it?
Umar.
Do you wanna try
Uthman.
again? You wanna try that again?
Uthman.
Yeah, so it's Uthman. Yeah, so it's Uthman ibn Affan, right?
Okay.
Who owns a well in currency related to the Prophet Sallam. You know, to own wells is also a wealth on its own. Mashallah. Beautiful. So 1 point for you, inshallah. Okay, last but not least, Abbas. Let's see. How long did Abu Hurairah spend with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Okay, 3 options: between 6 to 7 years, between 1 to 2 years, or between 2 to 4 years.
Between 2 to 4 years.
Yes, between 2 to 4 years, mashallah. I think learning about how long the Sahaba spent time with Rasulullah will also help us understand, the amount of narrations that they narrated out of them, and also their experiences as they lived together with the Prophet. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So, Alhamdulillah, we have survived. We have survived this round, Alhamdulillah. And inshallah, we will move on to the last segment about hopes and intentions, inshallah.
I think for the best generation, I think one of the hopes that we have is that if you can see like there's a sahabah and he has like very small snippets of like what they are, but we hope that reading like these small snippets will actually um, make people more interested to actually read up about all of these amazing sahabah. Like when we were like that's when we were talking about all of these sahabahs and we were doing the research, I think one of the hardest thing, right, was like how do we not put all this information right inside here, and actually the first round of like when we did the game, right, the information was like at least like twice the amount, but then when we played with people we realized that people didn't read it because maybe it's just like yeah, it's a bit too much, right? So we decided to make it smaller, but we hope that with these snippets that you learn about like these people who are like really the people who are like the best of our ummah, right? So yeah.
Similarly, like I think our hopes for the best generation itself is to shed some light on the companions of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Yeah, like we were saying, like a lot of these companions we actually didn't know about them until we started to do some research, and like we realized about the great stories, and like there really a lot of life lessons and gems that we could learn from them. So we hope that this game will spark the interest to learn about the companions. Yeah, and provide also fun and engaging way to spend your time beneficially with your friends during gatherings or with your family as bonding sessions.
Alhamdulillah, I think with this game, I mean I agree with everything that their vision is, of course. And I think one of the things that our teachers mentioned is that every generation has like scholars to revive Sirah, to revive the stories of like the Sahabah, the stories of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And I think insyaAllah, this will be one of the ways or like one of the means that, I mean, we're not by any way like scholars or anything, but this will be one of the ways that we can revive the stories of these very important people instead of the stories of, like, I don't know, the stories that are not important at all. These will be the ones that will play a central role in our lives because there's a reason why they were a generation that we were told to learn from. They are they're humans and their stories, and they have like human interactions that we face on a daily basis as well, and we can actually take lessons from them to see how we can best deal with those, and also like with those situations. And also, alhamdulillah, may these pieces of information spark you to want to learn more about each other, and so many stories inside.
Inshallah, inshallah. So beautiful hopes and intentions as been shared. And of course we hope that you're learning about Sahabas who are promised Jannah, all of these great Sahabas will be one that is continuous, and inshallah the more that you learn, the more you know how to live a life that is pleased by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the more we know, the more we can do better lah. Inshallah. So alhamdulillah, we have come to the end of this episode. All that is good comes from Allah. We apologize for any of our shortcomings, and we hope for you to tune in into the next one. Okay, take care, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.